Story 1: The Hotel Parking Lot. I never thought I'd be telling a story like this. For 8 years, I believed my marriage was solid. We had our ups and downs, but I thought we were a team. I trusted her completely, and that was my mistake. It began with subtle changes. She started working late more often, claiming she had urgent projects. She'd come home tired, barely speaking, and her phone was always in her hand. If I walked into the room, she'd quickly turn the screen away. When I asked what was going on, she'd laugh it off, saying I was paranoid. One Friday, I decided to surprise her. I finished work early, bought her favorite flowers, and went to her office. I imagined her smiling when she saw me, but her desk was empty. Her coworker said she'd left 2 hours earlier. My stomach dropped. I got into my car and started driving, unsure where I was going. That's when I saw it, her car, parked outside a cheap hotel on the far side of town. My mind raced with excuses. Maybe she was meeting a friend, maybe something had happened. I wanted to believe anything except the obvious. I parked across the street and waited. 10 long minutes later, she appeared, with a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, laughing, his hand locked around hers like it belonged to him. Then, right there in broad daylight, they kissed. It felt like a knife twisting in my chest. My ears rang, and my hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I didn't confront them. I just drove away, my vision blurred with tears I didn't even feel falling. That night, she came home acting like nothing had happened. She told me she'd been working late. I told her I'd seen everything. For a moment, she tried to deny it, but then she sighed and said she didn't mean to hurt me. As if that erased the image burned into my mind. The next morning, I packed my bags. I left the flowers on the kitchen table, still wrapped in paper. I walked out the door without looking back. Betrayal changes you. It teaches you that love without loyalty is just an illusion, and that the person you trust the most can also be the one to destroy you. I lost my wife that day, but I kept my dignity. And that, at least, is something she couldn't take from me. Story 2: The Business Trip. I used to believe that trust was the foundation of every relationship. With my wife, I never doubted it. She was ambitious, hardworking, and often traveled for work. So when she told me she had a 3-day conference in another city, I didn't question it. I even helped her pack. She sent me updates the first day, selfies in her hotel room, pictures of conference halls, and texts about how tired she was from meetings. But something in my gut told me the photos looked staged. The background in her hotel selfie didn't match the chain she usually stayed in for work. Curiosity got the better of me. I called a friend who works in the same industry and casually mentioned the event. He paused, then said there was no such conference happening that week. My chest tightened. I didn't want to believe it, but I needed the truth. The next morning, I drove 3 hours to the address she had sent. It was a small boutique hotel, not the business venue I expected. My hands trembled as I knocked on her door. A man answered. He looked surprised, then stepped aside. She was sitting on the bed in pajamas, her hair messy, eyes wide. Behind her, I noticed 2 coffee cups and a half-eaten breakfast for 2. She stammered something about a colleague and work discussions, but the truth was already obvious. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just said, I hope he was worth it, and walked out. She followed me into the hallway, begging me to talk, but I kept walking. The elevator doors closed between us like a final curtain. The drive home was long and silent, my mind replaying every smile, every kiss, every moment we'd shared, now tainted. That night, I packed her belongings into boxes. I left them by the door. When she returned a day later, she realized I wasn't going to give her a second chance. Betrayal doesn't always come with warning signs. Sometimes it's dressed as routine, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the moment to destroy everything you thought you knew. Story 3: My Best Friend. They say you should keep your friends close, but I never thought I needed to keep my wife closer. My best friend and I had known each other since childhood. He was the guy I trusted with everything, my secrets, my problems, even my home when I was away. When I introduced him to my wife, they got along instantly. At first, I was glad. It felt like having the two most important people in my life connect. We'd have dinners together, go on trips, spend weekends watching movies. I thought nothing of it. Then little things began to stand out. Inside jokes between them that I didn't understand. Quick glances when they thought I wasn't looking. One night, during a barbecue at our place, I went inside to grab drinks. When I returned, they were sitting closer than usual, whispering and smiling. I brushed it off, maybe I was being paranoid. The truth came out by accident. We were hosting a party, and I had too much to drink. I went to bed early, leaving everyone in the living room. Around 2 a.m., I woke up thirsty and went to the kitchen. That's when I saw them, my wife and my best friend, standing in the dark, kissing like they had done it 100 times before. They didn't see me. I froze, my heart pounding so hard it drowned out every sound. I turned around and went back to bed without saying a word. The next morning, I confronted her. She denied it until I told her I'd seen them. Then she cried and said it was a mistake that had been happening for months. I called him later that day. He didn't apologize. He just said, "Things happen." That was all it took for me to cut them both out of my life completely. Losing her was painful. Losing him hurt in a different way. I didn't just lose a marriage, I lost a lifetime of friendship. Betrayal from a lover is bad. Betrayal from your best friend? That's a wound that never fully heals. Story 4, the social media slip. It was a Tuesday evening, nothing unusual. We were sitting on the couch watching TV. She got up to take a shower and left her phone on the coffee table. Normally, I never touched her things, I believed in privacy. But then a notification popped up. It was from someone named Mark Redhart. The message read, "I can't wait to see you again." My chest tightened instantly. My hands hesitated over the phone. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but the other part, the one sick with curiosity, opened the chat. What I saw crushed me. Dozens of messages. Photos. Voice notes of her whispering "I miss you." Plans for a weekend getaway. She had told me she'd be visiting her sister that weekend. Now I knew the truth. When she came out of the shower, I was still sitting there with her phone in my hand. I asked, "Who's Mark?" She froze, her eyes darting to the screen. Then she laughed nervously, saying he was just a friend. I didn't believe her. I printed the messages and left them on the kitchen counter. That night, when she saw them, she finally confessed. They had met at the gym months ago and started talking. Talking turned into dinners. Dinners turned into nights at his apartment. She claimed she didn't want to hurt me, that she still loved me. But love doesn't involve hiding your phone, changing passwords, and lying about where you are. The next day, I packed her things into boxes. I didn't shout, didn't cry, didn't beg her to stay. I just told her to go to Mark. And she did. Social media didn't ruin my marriage. Lies did. The phone was just the place where she left the evidence. Story 5, the anniversary betrayal. Our 5th wedding anniversary was supposed to be special. I'd been planning it for months, a surprise weekend trip to the mountains, a cozy cabin, and a private chef for dinner. She had no idea, I wanted it to be perfect. The night before, I overheard her in the kitchen on the phone. She was whispering and giggling in a way she hadn't done with me in years. I caught a few words, "I can't wait to see you tomorrow." My stomach turned cold. Tomorrow was our anniversary. Who else could she possibly be talking about? I didn't confront her. I needed proof. The next morning, I canceled the cabin and told her I had to work late, just to see what she would do. She seemed relieved. She left the house dressed up more than usual, saying she was going to dinner with a friend. I followed her. She drove across town to a fancy restaurant, the one we used to go to for special occasions. My heart sank when I saw her at a table, smiling and holding hands with a man I didn't recognize. They leaned in close, sharing bites of dessert like newlyweds. I watched from my car, tears burning my eyes, my hands gripping the steering wheel. After an hour, they left together, laughing as they walked to his car. I didn't need to see more. I drove home. When she returned later that night, she acted as if nothing had happened. I told her I knew that I had seen her. She tried to explain, saying it just happened, that it wasn't serious. But in that moment, I realized something. It didn't matter if it was serious, the damage was done. The next morning, instead of flowers and breakfast in bed, she found her suitcase packed by the door. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I just told her I couldn't celebrate an anniversary with someone who had already erased it from their heart. Betrayal is bad enough on any day, but when it happens on a day meant to celebrate your love, it leaves a scar that never fades. Story 6: The Gym Trainer. When my wife joined a new gym, I was happy for her. She'd been talking about getting healthier for months, and the gym became her new passion. She started going 5 times a week, sometimes even twice a day. She told me about her trainer Ethan and how motivating he was. At first, I didn't think much of it. She seemed happier, more energetic. But soon, I noticed changes. She started buying new workout clothes, more revealing than before. Her phone was constantly buzzing with messages, and she'd smile while reading them, sometimes even blushing. One Saturday, she said she had an early training session. I decided to surprise her with breakfast after her workout. I drove to the gym, parked outside, and waited. But instead of seeing her walk out in gym clothes, I saw her and Ethan exit together, both dressed casually. They laughed as he opened the passenger door for her. I followed them at a distance. They didn't go to a cafe. They went to a hotel. I sat there in the parking lot for almost an hour, each minute feeling like a punch to the gut. When they came out, they looked comfortable. Like this wasn't the first time. That evening, I asked her how her training went. She smiled and said it was great, that she was making progress. I asked if Ethan was helping her with more than just workouts. The color drained from her face. She admitted it. She claimed it just happened, that they connected during sessions. I didn't want to hear more. I told her to pack her things. She tried to hold my hand, begging me to forgive her, saying she didn't want to lose me. But the truth is, she'd already lost me the moment she chose him. Betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from someone you hear about every day, someone who becomes part of your conversations until you realize they've taken more than your trust. Story 7: The Reunion. When my wife told me her high school reunion was coming up, I encouraged her to go. She'd always been nostalgic about those years, talking about her old friends and the fun they used to have. I thought it would be a harmless night of catching up. The day of the event, she spent hours getting ready, more than I'd seen her do in years. She left in a cloud of perfume, promising she wouldn't be late. I stayed home, watching TV, thinking nothing of it. She didn't come back until nearly 3 a.m. She said the night went longer than expected and she'd been helping a friend get home. Something about her story didn't sit right. The next morning, I noticed a faint smell of cologne on her dress, not her perfume, not mine. I decided to dig deeper. A week later, one of her old classmates, who didn't know what was going on, casually mentioned seeing her at the reunion, dancing closely with a man named Daniel. Apparently, they were inseparable all night. That was enough to set my mind spinning. 2 weeks later, she said she was meeting an old friend for coffee. I followed her. Sure enough, it was Daniel. They weren't drinking coffee. They were walking hand in hand down the street, stopping to kiss like a couple in love. When she got home, I confronted her. She admitted it, said Daniel was her high school crush, that seeing him again brought back old feelings. She tried to justify it as unfinished business. But marriage isn't something you put on pause to explore what could have been. That night, I told her to choose. She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. I walked away, leaving her to chase whatever ghost from her past she thought was worth more than our future.